Folks, we are living in a historic time in the history of college football. I am not one to push hyperbole or shock or awe in any way. You guys know me. This 2021 college football season and the entire year coming from 2020 into 2021 has been historic beyond measure. We won't know the ramifications of what has happened during the last 12 to 18 months for years and years and years and decades to come. We have had a pandemic that has reduced a season, that has caused players to move to other programs, that have caused players to stay close to home, that have caused players to extend their careers to 5th and 6th and 7th years, that has changed the landscape of how many players can come from the high school ranks and the JUCO ranks into college football. We have had a 12-team college football playoff proposal made public that is still being worked on. We have had Texas and Oklahoma decide to leave the Big 12 and enter the SEC, the biggest expansion, the most important and prominent expansion and change to the college football landscape by 2 schools at one time ever. There have been larger changes involving more schools in the last 20 years. We've seen the ACC completely reshaped. We've seen the Big 10 and the SEC, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 added to and subtracted from, and we've seen the Big East completely dissolve. But in terms of 2 schools who are the bedrock, the prestige, and almost everything, those 2 schools that represent 20% of the Big 12 in terms of membership, that are more like 70 or 80% of the money, prestige, and power, leave the Big 12, go to the SEC. Fortunately for the Big 12, they pick up BYU, Houston, and UCF, and also Cincinnati. We have seen name, image, and likeness legalized and allowed starting July 1st, and that is taking on a significant place within the college football landscape in the choices of players and where they will play and where they will spend their time or where they will relocate and commit to playing. We have seen the transfer portal blow up beyond what it was a year and a half ago. This transfer portal has existed far longer than most people realize, but because of the changing guidelines, conditions, and circumstances surrounding such, and the education of the transfer portal, it has exploded. Free agency in college football is here, and it cannot be likened to the NFL. The NFL is a restricted free agency. Most players in the NFL right this second or going into this next offseason are under contract. There's roughly 10 or 15% of the NFL that are free agents in any given offseason. Therefore, the NFL free agency is restricted to a certain number of players. These players in college football can become free agents like that at any time. A college football player can wake up tomorrow and he doesn't like that it's a gloomy day in Minneapolis, or that he got bad cafeteria service downstairs at the cafeteria on campus, and so he's going to transfer. For any such reason, on a whim, every college football player tomorrow could become a free agent. This is unforeseen, uncharted territory. Good for the individual, not good for the sport. That's a separate conversation. We have seen this season the first group of 5 being given an invitation since the beginning of this college football playoff era in 2014, and going back to the BCS championship game commencement in 1998, the first group of 5 team to be given an invitation to play for a national championship. We have a National Signing Day today, in which we have seen over the last 3 to 4 years since the early signing date has been instituted. National Signing Day transitioned from February to December, where roughly 90% of the players, and certainly the most prominent players, sign in December. And now, this morning, we saw a player from the state of Georgia, Travis Hunter, who committed to Florida State University in March of 2020. That was nearly 2 years ago. That is 3 months shy of being 2 years ago. Flip on signing day to Jackson State. This is not just an ordinary flip for a number of reasons. First of all, this is the #1 player in the class. This is the #1 rated player in the country. Secondly, it's the nature in which he has conducted himself for the past 2 years. This is not a player, much like many other players, who simply made a commitment and then did not follow through on it, and maybe tweeted out the original commitment that they were going to go to said school and then decided otherwise later. This is a young man, Travis Hunter, and this is not a criticism of him. This is just merely fact in the way he has conducted himself and communicated and acted upon his commitment, that he has recruited other players to Florida State, actively been out there recruiting to Florida State. He has been a Florida State loyalist. He has been on campus multiple times. I went through his 247 Sports timeline, and I'm sure it's more extensive than this, but officially, although it's been unofficial, the many visits he's taken to Tallahassee, he has been on campus time and time again, over and over and over and over, more so than any commit that I've ever seen. I'm not a recruiting junkie, so I cannot verify that. But based on my exposure to the sport, which is every day, he has been on the Florida State campus and involved in Florida State activities surrounding the university and the football program, camps, spring games, practices, events, more so than anybody I've ever seen. He has been committed, not just in spoken word, verbally, to Florida State, but he has been invested in Florida State football for almost 2 years. And even before that, because he grew up a Florida State fan. And not a week prior, not 3 days prior, not the day before, did he flip to Jackson State, which is historic in and of itself, because he didn't flip from Florida State to Miami, to Georgia, to Alabama. He flipped to a historically black college, university, Jackson State, and he did it at his announcement. I have not watched the announcement. I don't know the circumstances surrounding it. Therefore, I will not be critical of that portion of it. It would seem on the surface as though he could have done it differently, but I will refrain from being a judge there, certainly, because I do not know. And it would not have changed the decision or the outcome or the impact to both Jackson State and Florida State's rivals, because we are talking about, again, the #1 player in high school football. Travis Hunter is not a Florida State Seminole, as we all anticipated for the past year and a half. He is a Jackson State football player under the head coach of Deion Sanders. I've not looked into the possible NIL portion of this. I simply read the statement by Travis Hunter. We have been live with our Oklahoma show for about 75 minutes, and followed by a recruiting report that I recorded on Arkansas just a few minutes ago. So I've not delved deep into this, nor will I until We go live with our Florida State show at 6 o'clock Eastern time. So you can catch it right here on the main channel or on our Florida State channel, 6 o'clock Eastern time. We will discuss the decision by one Travis Hunter to turn back on his commitment to Florida State and sign with Jackson State. No longer should we consider these to be commitments. Commitments, decommitment. It's almost laughable that that's what we term these commitments. It's a commitment. No, it's not a commitment. It is for particular student athletes who then fulfill that commitment. It must have been a commitment for them. But is it truly a commitment? You didn't make a commitment. You made a decision on a given day that you most likely will attend that university and play football there. Is that a commitment? No, you made no commitment. You have not invested any work. You've not invested any time other than conversations, but you've not invested time in that particular program that you did not invest in other programs. So you did not make a commitment in that program beyond what you've committed to other suitors. So yes, you've committed time. I'm not taking that away from the various student athletes that commit the time to officially and unofficially visit campus and explore the university and the football program and talk to the coaches and build a relationship with them. Yes, they have invested time. Therefore, there's been a commitment placed, but that commitment has also been matched by other relationships with other schools and teams. So when we say the word commitment in this day and age in general, and specifically in this industry of college football, the word is flimsy. It is not a commitment because many of those are not fulfilled commitments. And that's what a commitment is. When you make a commitment, if it is truly defined as a commitment, then it is a fulfilled commitment. That goes along with the word commitment. You might as well call it a promise and then a broken promise. I will get to your comments and questions here at the Voice of College Football. I decided to go live with this because it's such a shocking story. I have absolutely zero investment in this decision. I could care less where the young man goes to school and plays football. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. I have no investment in Florida State's football future or their rivals. It obviously helps the likes of Miami and Clemson and other teams in the ACC that will not have to face Travis Hunter. And it certainly could mean a new era of football at Jackson State. It could. Others may follow, but it doesn't matter to me. And I was still, true shock would be an overstatement. I was surprised. I was taken back. I did not expect it. I did not anticipate it. I did not even consider it because of what has been sold to me as the Travis Hunter commitment to Florida State. Travis Hunter is obviously not committed to Florida State. He committed to Jackson State. Let's also understand, how long will that commitment last? A year? Maybe a full 3 to 4 years if he opts early for the NFL draft. And that would be to his credit. But let's understand going forward that the term commitment does not mean what it's historically meant. Not just in this case, but in any. And even if that particular player commits and signs with that university to play football, how long will that commitment last? A year? Before he enters the transfer portal to move on to somewhere else. I would like to read the tweet that was sent out by Travis Hunter. if I may, who has not updated his Twitter account because it says Travis Hunter, Florida State football. Five-star number one cornerback, Florida State commit. Class of 2022, Travis Hunter. That's still on his Twitter. So somebody's going to have to show him the settings. There's a settings function, Travis, on Twitter. You may want to update that. You're misrepresenting yourself. That may upset some people at Jackson State and or Florida State. So there's a settings function, Travis. Go in there, change your profile. You were not committed to Florida State. You showed that. So Travis stated this. Florida State has always been a beacon for me. I grew up down there. That's where my roots are. And I never doubted that I would play for the Seminoles. Well, at some point he doubted it. I doubt if he just got an epiphany this morning before he was about to sign the document. It's a dream that it's hard to let go of, but sometimes we are called to step into a bigger future than the one we imagine for ourselves. Is that a sincere statement? I have no idea. I've got to take it at face value that it is, that he believes that he's being called to a bigger vision, bigger future. Maybe, maybe not. Jerry Rice, Doug Williams, and of course the legend, Jackson State's own Walter Payton. Historically black colleges and universities have a rich history in football. I want to be a part of that history and more. I want to be part of that future. I am making this decision so that I can light the way for others to follow, make it a little easier for the next players who recognize that historically black universities may be everything you want and more. An exciting college experience, a vital community, and a life-changing place to play football. I look forward to working with the iconic Deion Sanders and especially with my fellow Tigers, along with Coach Prime. It's Coach Sanders, right? Coach Prime. They have made me feel like I'm already part of the team, like I'm home, and I can't wait to welcome the new class of top athletes into the family of historically black colleges and universities. Okay. So that's it right there. Something else, huh? Crazy. Let's see what all of you think. Oh, we've got a lot of comments. Joe Bo, good to see you. Clemson looks like that it's pulling in a top 15 class, I think number 3 in the ACC right now. Praying for Seminoles fans. Hopefully none have jumped off any bridges. We got Gary. Go Blue. We've got our Michigan show coming up at 5 Eastern. Check it out. All sorts of folks, especially those wearing Gator and Hurricane colors, are laughing at Florida State, and I would understand that. Gary says Ohio State still sucks. I always find it amusing when people, regardless of the fan base and regardless of what team they're attacking, say that a particular team sucks or maybe a high-level player suck. And then I wonder, wow, if that team sucks, wow, we've got like 125 teams that suck in college football. Mike Myrek, what's up? Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. Happy holidays and go Noles. Mike, still hitting up go Noles. Good for you, Mike. Hope that this news did not hit you too hard. But appreciate you being here, Mike, as always. John says, I think Barstool comes out way ahead on this. They get PR out of it. Even bad PR is good. They may be remembered as the one that triggered needed change. There's a comment here by Holy Sal that says rumors are saying that Kamari Wilson goes to Jackson State as well. Jason, go Knowles. Congrats to Travis Hunter. Best of luck to that young man. FSU is going to be fine, though. Go Knowles. That is a classy statement right there. Thank you, Jason. Christopher hates the playoffs and says that the FCS sucks. Golden Blue Dude. There he is. Mark Rogers, West Virginia channel coming soon. Yes. We are going live with a West Virginia channel here on Friday night. I will announce it right here in the middle of the Travis Hunter news and response and reaction. So, Travis, I apologize. I'm going to upstage you 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times over. And I hate to do this to you on your big day of your signing that's gaining all this attention. But the Voice of College Football is starting a West Virginia channel, and we will succeed at this only because of the contributions of Golden Blue Dude in particular. So we appreciate him being here. And we are going to launch our West Virginia live show Friday at 7 Eastern, right here on the main channel, also over on the West Virginia channel. So please go over there and subscribe. Just look up Voice of College Football, West Virginia. DJ says that he is shocked but not mad at Travis and Dion. Well, in a sense, you can't be mad at them. The only issue I have with it, and again, I said this a few minutes ago, I don't want to state this in a way that's ignorant because I don't know all the details, but I would think that he could have flipped, let's say, yesterday. And so then his announcement at his ceremony would have been more of just a celebration of him signing with Jackson State. And the Florida State situation would have been pushed into the background that, all right, I flipped. I made that decision. So Florida State knows that I'm not coming. Its fan base knows that I'm not coming. Not that it would be this just sheer, utter shock based on the announcement that, okay, everyone's expecting this just to be a coronation of me signing with Florida State, and boom, I'm dropping a bomb on everyone. Maybe that was not his intent. Maybe that was his intent, which I question, but some people like to grandstand and some people like to make situations bigger than they are. But that's fine. That's his right to do that. Christopher does not mind the transfer portal. Okay. We got Tron 7000. Great job, young man. Christopher, this is not the NFL. Thanks for clarifying that. Patrick, the bag man is alive and well. NIL resurrected him for the dead. Well, Jason, I can agree with you, but let's understand that as long as the rule that there is only one transfer allowed, and then the next transfer, you have to sit out 1 year. Like the old days, you would have to sit out 1 year unless you could prove a hardship. You would have to sit out for 1 year. That there's 1 year or one transfer allowed, and then the next transfer, you have to sit out for 1 year. That's going to curb this. Although I'm not understanding, let's take somebody, for example, Chase Bryce. He played at Clemson. He transferred. He went to Duke. He played, I believe, 1 season at Duke. Then he transferred to App State. So I don't know why Chase Bryce did not have to sit out, because this is my understanding. Again, beyond hardships, that you get one transfer without penalty. And then any transfer after that, you have to sit out a year. Van Life Storytelling. This is a very sad day for college football due to the NIL ruling. It sucks. Well, what has been good for the individual is not necessarily good for college football. So I am all for the NIL because I believe that it is capitalism, it is freedom of movement, freedom of choice. And that's what we have here in America. And that's what I completely am loyal to and promote and support and defend in every possible way. However, it's not good for the sport of college football. Now, the NFL has the advantage that even though players make a ton of money, which I could go off into a whole other rant about the idiocy that we see on a regular basis from morons who complain about their work situations as professional athletes when they're making, hundreds of millions of dollars. So pushing those morons aside, this has gone way beyond NFL free agency. And in a sense, as I stated recently, just a couple hours ago on our Oklahoma show, that with this becoming a big business, going from a big business to just all business, that if the powers that be in college football, and I don't know that this would pass legally. I don't think that it would pass any type of, I don't think it could be formed legally because theoretically and not in practice, but in theory and in practice for many of the athletes, it's a academic decision. It's an academic endeavor and component first and foremost, and then the athletics is secondary in theory. Otherwise, I would suggest that all the conferences band together. And then with this Jackson State situation, they would have to probably bring in the historically black colleges and universities. So I'm going into a territory that, again, this is not going to happen, but just hang with me in theory, that if they want to combat this player movement all over the place and just jumping from team to team and program to program constantly, well, then they set themselves up like the NFL, and they become an organization in which you are drafted and employed into our organization to play football. And while you're playing football, you can go to school and benefit from that if you so choose. And we are going to set it up like the NFL. So basically, the NFL drafts players. The teams make the decision on who they draft, but it's the NFL drafting the players. And then they're basically being assigned to different corporate offices. So you don't get a choice on where you can play if you're drafted into the NFL. You could be from Florida and having played your entire life in Florida and attended Florida State and played there, and you get drafted by the NFL and you get sent to our Seattle office, our Seattle corporate office. That's where you're going to be employed. You could be a Texas kid, having always played in Texas high schools and colleges, and then you get drafted by Buffalo and you are being sent to our Buffalo office, and college football could do that. Again, that's not going to happen, but if all this is going to be treated to the nth degree like a business, then for the well-being and the health of the entire sport, and for the lesser teams and programs, then maybe it should be treated like that. That's maybe the way it should go. Yeah, so I haven't looked into this yet, but Patrick Beck is letting us know Travis Hunter receiving $2 million from a gambling company to flip ethically questionable at best. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why the NFL kept gambling out of the sport for so long until recently. The NFL did a complete flip, as did all the professional sports, from doing everything they possibly could to to separate themselves from gambling to now embracing gambling because of the increased attention and the increased interest. Understand that most people that watch sports, when I say most, I don't know what the percentage is, but a large portion of the people that watch any particular sport, but football in particular, really don't care about football. The people that I'm talking to, all of you and myself, we love football. We love watching football. We don't care that there's money on the line or that we lay down $5 on a game or whatever the case might be. That might just be a side interest, or we just want to take advantage of or entertain ourselves even further, or take advantage of what we believe our knowledge base is. Okay. But we watch football because we love the sport. I know tons of people, and it's obvious out there that the NFL and other sports want to take advantage of people that are fringe fans that have all sorts of entertainment options, but they're going to be more interested in watching a football game, an NFL game, if they've got money on it. That the Rams Titans game does not matter to them otherwise. But now, I've got a few bucks on this game. I'm going to watch it. And that drives the business. That increases numbers and makes the sport more popular. So the NFL finally caught on to that being more important to them than trying to protect the sanctity of the game and the ethical aspect of the game. Hey, Cheryl, good to see you. Hemi Knoll for life. What you're stating there about NIL, I understand your perspective, and you might be responding emotionally to this situation with Travis Hunter, or you may have thought this yesterday and the day before and the day before that. And much of what you're stating right there, I get your perspective. But when it comes to individuals in our society, as long as we have a free society here in America, which it's certainly being challenged like no other time in our history, our freedom of speech and freedom of movement and freedom of access and our capitalism is being challenged like at no other time. But if we're going to stay true to our beliefs and values in this country, then these college athletes need to be given the same opportunity as you are and as I am to earn money. I don't believe that the institutions themselves should be paying for them to play. I'm not going to get into that right now because that becomes a bit muddied because of the NIL portion of this. It would not surprise me if that there are schools that now funnel money through an NIL deal to sweeten the pot and increase that financial figure, and now can camouflage that within an NIL deal to the athlete. That's wrong. The scholarship itself is plenty payment from the institution. As the father of a daughter who is paying student loans, I have always argued that the scholarship and the room and board is significant, I have argued, a ton of people on here that have argued with me that these athletes should be paid and they should make X number of dollars for playing football games. They are being paid. They were being paid even before NIL. It's called a scholarship. It's worth a lot of money. It's worth six figures. They're being paid more than anybody of their age in America outside of some very rare influencers on Instagram that are college age or on TikTok. Besides those handful of people, these college athletes are being paid more through a scholarship than anybody their age range. So that scholarship is valuable. It's worth a ton of money. And again, that is something I have always argued, but I am more fervently and vehemently arguing it today, knowing the impact of student loans. So I will be the last person on earth to argue that point and say college athletes have always been paid who are receiving a scholarship. The NIL, I don't have an issue with because of everything I just stated. I believe it's their right as American citizens to earn money, but it is corrupting the game. It's what is good for the individual is not become good for the entirety. So if you enjoy football and you just enjoy the game of watching football, but a lot of this turns you off, then what you need to do is just turn the games on. And that doesn't bode well for my channel or our discussions, but we will do our best to stick to just talking about football because that's what we do 90% of the time is we just talk about football and just talk about what we saw on the field and what we expect to see this Saturday and who the all-time greatest quarterbacks are, running backs or coaches or rankings and ratings and all that sort of thing. So we will stick to talking about college football. But when situations like this arise and slap us upside the head, we need to address those. And we'll talk about the business of college football on a fairly regular basis. But it will never take over this channel or our conversation. So I would say that you could steer clear of those kind of conversations if you just enjoy the play on the field and you don't want to hear about all this and it's bothering you, then you need to just tune in on Saturday. And you can tune into my channel most of the time when we're just talking about football. There's Patrick. He was delaying the announcement, checking multiple cell phones, waiting for the wire transfer to hit his account. The one portion of this that should be upheld, I don't expect it to be any more than it is now, depending on the university and the situation, is that these players, regardless of how much money they're making from NIL deal A, B, and C, that scholarship determines that they fulfill that scholarship and meet the requirements of that scholarship, meaning that they've got to go to class, they've got to earn certain grades. So as long as that's happening, that, and I'm not confident that it is in every case. Well, I know that it's not in every case. I hope that it is in most cases, and I believe that it is. I don't think that, I hate to pick on any particular program, but I think it gives it a little bit more clarity. I don't believe that the University of Wisconsin is fixing grades for its defensive linemen. Like I think that most of this is above board, but are there players out there that get special benefits and are given adjustments or manipulation to grades and requirements in class? Yes. So if that could be eliminated and these players actually earn their scholarship, Earning the scholarship is not just playing football. Earning the scholarship is earning the grades in the class and the class workload to stay eligible. And as long as they're able to do that, I feel better about this. Much like the playoff should not be called a playoff because it's not living up to its name. It is not a playoff. It's an invitational. You have to be invited to play. You do not earn a playoff spot. You are invited to a playoff spot. And so if I could make myself disciplined to stop calling it a playoff, a college football playoff, even though that's the name of it, it's an invitational. I should go forward doing the same thing with commitments and say, when so-and-so commits to Penn State, I need to come up with another name for that because it's been proven out that that's not a commitment. It's not a commitment. It is for some. We don't know until it's actually becomes a signed document whether that student athlete actually fulfilled the commitment and signed. But when they say I'm committed to play at Florida State, I got to come up with another name for that because they're not committed. They may be. We need to find out, and we will eventually find out. But for many of these guys, they're not committed. So we need to come up with, they verbally committed. So basically, they verbally announced. They verbally announced that most likely I'm going to go to Florida State. Most likely when the day comes where I have to put pen to paper, it's going to be Florida State. I'm giving you an indication of what my preference is today. That's basically what they're telling us. Today, my preference is Florida State. That's what the commitment is telling us. It's not a commitment. We all need to look up the word commitment. That word's been watered down by this process for sure. It's not a commitment. They have not committed to anything. Ed, our Ohio State show is coming up tomorrow, Thursday at 1:30 Eastern. No, wait a minute. 11 a.m. Eastern. We had to move the Ohio State show from today because our guys are busy with, National Signing Day. And so Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time is our Ohio State show. So today is going to be 5, 6, and 7 Eastern, Michigan, Florida State, Miami. All right, folks, I'm going to scan these comments just to make sure I'm not missing anything insightful. Appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for liking this video. Thank you so much for subscribing here at the Voice of College Football. And thank you so much for being here all the time, nonstop. So please, when you like and share these videos and also subscribe, hit that bell for the notifications to know when we're going live, which is all the time. And especially that benefits you in situations like right now, when you see that we're going live unexpectedly, unannounced, much like Travis Hunter's commitment to Jackson State. Let me make sure we do not miss a super chat coming in from Uncle Rico. Appreciate that, Uncle Rico. We really need George here to make sense of this all. George would bring clarity to this for sure. There is no question about that. And again, we have just fired up a West Virginia channel here at the Voice of College Football. Check it out. Just look up West Virginia Voice of College Football. You will find it there. And we will do our first live stream with the Gold and Blue Dude coming up Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time, right here. You can catch it on the main channel, but we want you to go over to the West Virginia channel as well and subscribe. So West Virginia football fans, we've got a place for you that will just supplement what you already find there with the Gold and Blue Dude and with others on West Virginia football. So we're excited about that. Hair Trigger is telling us that Tyrone Tracy of Iowa is now going to Purdue. Okay. Thank you so much for that. And Christopher continues to tell us that the playoffs suck. Sage asks, Mark, do you think the early signing day changes dates, like shifts to August, for example? No, I think it would just shift past the holidays again. So we had an early signing date of the first Wednesday in February, which still holds as a signing date that largely gets ignored now and probably only is serviced by about 10% of the student athletes. This was changed based on everything that I've ever heard, gathered, read. This was changed to an early signing date, I believe 4 years ago in December, because student athletes had routinely expressed that they were sick of being contacted and hounded through their entire or close to their entire senior year, not just during the football season, but into the holidays, past the holidays, into January, as they were preparing to graduate, that most of them were prepared to make a decision earlier than February. And that's proven out because most of them do. And then the ones that still want to wait and make some other considerations and still build those relationships and consider and decide later, still have that option to wait until February. So I would believe that it would go back to maybe sometime between December. If there's only going to be one, like there was in the past, the first Wednesday of February, I believe that that would be changed to sometime after the college football season, maybe a week later. That's an estimate. All right. We appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. Again, your next stop is Michigan Live at 5 o'clock Eastern. In the meantime, I will be delivering National Signing Day reports. We've got one with Arkansas ready to be released here at the Voice of College Football. And we've got Michigan Live at 5, Florida State at 6. You Florida State fans and haters. And anyone who wants more insight into the Travis Hunter decision, Florida State Live at 6, and then Miami Live at 7, right here at the Voice of College Football. We'll see you in a couple hours.